Hello, everyone. I am John DiJulius of the DiJulius Group, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Stan Slapp, author, keynote speaker, consultant, and I am so excited. Stan Slapp is one of our headliners at this year's 2013 Secret Service Summit that is this November 3rd and 4th in Cleveland. Welcome, Stan.
How are you, John?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good.
Well, it's so
Welcome
great
to
to
everybody
have
out
you.
there.
Say that again?
I said welcome to everybody out there.
Yes, yes. And Stan is headquartered in sunny San Francisco, California. Stan is the expert in creating ferocious support and management, employee and customer culture. What's that mean, Stan?
Well, this is all we focus on. We focus on these three groups which decide the success of any business and which very little is known about. I think culture is probably the most widely used, least understood term in business. And we use these to drive stunning business results for our clients and for the world. So that's what we do.
And you're right. You hear culture all the time: corporate culture, employee culture, internal world-class culture. What's the best way you describe the word culture?
Well, first of all, we're not when we're talking about cultures, we're not talking about a bunch of managers or a bunch of employees or a bunch of customers. When these groups form a relationship with a company and become a culture, they are far more self-protective, far more intelligent, and far more resistant to standard methods of corporate influence. And that's because a culture exists to protect itself. All the way from the early anthropological definitions of a culture, when you get a group of people who share the same basic living circumstances, they band together to share the rules of survival so everybody is safer. That's what a culture is. That's what your employee culture is. That's what your customer culture is. It's a group of people who have a relationship with you that are trying to determine what the known rules of survival and emotional prosperity are in that relationship. And so a culture is an information gathering organism designed to assure its own survival.
And Stan, so everyone has a culture, some by accident and some by design. So what is it? What is some of the key things? So we have because of you and the great headliners, we have Joe Calloway and Holly Steele and so many other great headliners. We're on pace to sell out pretty quick at the Secret Service Summit. So we have companies from Nestle and Price Waterhouse and Chick-fil-A and Starbucks to also some smaller middle-size and mom and pops there. What is share a little bit about what your presentation is going to be like. I have not seen you speak, but I have heard that you might be the only speaker that has more energy and more personality on stage than I do, and I thought that was going to be tough to beat. But I heard you can get an audience pretty riled up, and I got all my clients, the DiJulius Group clients, I bought them your best-selling, New York Times best-selling, and Wall Street Journal best-selling book, Bury My Heart at Conference Room B. And boy, have I gotten thank yous, people reading it on vacation, people reading it on planes, and are just, people seem to love it. So for the people that haven't seen you or read your book, what type of information are you going to share that they can take back and use?
I'm going to share how the three cultures basically that will decide the success of your business while you're listening to this sentence really work and how to really work them. So we're going to start with the internal culture, your employee and your manager cultures, because you can't sell it outside if you can't sell it inside. We're going to talk about excuse me, how those cultures really work and why they would choose to support or reject any management plan, any performance goal, any strategy, and especially any service strategy. Anything that requires discretionary effort, anything that requires an employee culture putting its own good name on the stated intentions of the company. What causes a culture to back away from that despite all the business logic that calls for it and all the bribery that pays for it? Why would a culture say yes or say no? I'm going to explain that. I'm going to bust a lot of myths. and explain some of what you can do on the epiphany side and on the practical tactical side, since we really do this work. And then we're going to switch to the customer culture. And I'm going to talk about branding. Now, if we're going to get into a territory where there is more mythology, misdirection, superstition, and generalized academic babble than most business subjects, it's branding. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start by busting myths about what branding is and isn't. Because every company says it wants to be a brand. They may not know what a brand is or why they should want to be a brand or who decides whether they're a brand or how to get branded, but they definitely want to be a brand. I'm going to show exactly how to become a brand, how any company can get that coveted brand status and what it really means when you get it, what it will really do for you. And then I'm going to show how the brand is in your hands. It's in everybody's hands in the company. And again, I hope to trigger the epiphany lights and give the audience something practical and tactical. So this talk is called The Hungry and the Hunted, which is really your internal culture and your external culture. How do you wake and shake both those cultures and get them to do your bidding? That's what this talk is about.
Get them to do your what?
Bidding. Bidding.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
The Hungry and the Hunted.
The Hungry and the Hunted.
And that's a lot of stuff. And I know you got 90 minutes, and this is going to be great. So can you give me an example of, well, first, before I ask you for an example of a myth buster that you have, is there any one culture that's more important, you know, than the other? And they're all critical, but it probably starts internal, wouldn't you say?
It starts internal, always starts internal. We tell clients, if you have one area to focus on, if you have a customer-facing strategy, you know, where do we focus? Skip it. Go ahead and focus on the internal culture. Because your customers are generally employees somewhere too. And so they're part of the overall employee culture. And they're going to decide to protect or reject your company based on how they perceive you treat people just like them. And so the culture will have this intuitive mind meld. If you have to focus one place, focus inside.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it. I love it. So everyone that's coming is coming because it's focused on customer service for 2 days, and these companies are already pretty high level at customer service, but they're all battling, right? And a lot of them have multi locations and 100 to 10,000 employees. And this is such a sensitive topic of trying to get everyone rowing the same way, believing in the same vision. In your experiences working with so many great companies, if a company is inconsistent at the delivering the customer experience externally, what do you think one of the top reasons is?
Well, it's either not driven by the right motives. And so it takes its place as one of many strategies, and it's thrown overboard under Q4 revenue pressure, or it's just not really understood, again, from a cultural perspective. What you're trying to do is get a reaction from your customer culture. If you don't know how to approach that group as a culture, that's not going to work. If your motivations are, we're just going to distract our customers from heinous sins we've committed in other areas, and so we're going to do some simple things, and we're going to do them very loudly. None of that is going to work for a culture. A culture, again, is going to make its decision very, very carefully about trust and how it responds to you. So if the customer experience is inconsistent, it's probably designed wrong, and it's designed for the wrong reasons. Let me answer this the simplest way I can here. Not because I think you're simple, the audience is simple, but just so I'm simple, and it's the way I think. When a client company comes to us and asks us to build what we call a brandable customer experience, which is a customer experience so good you get branded for how you sell, not just what you sell. The first thing that we ask them is, we gather the C-suite in the room, and if the C-suite won't gather in the room, we won't even go any further, because this is a company-wide issue. And we say, we're going to ask you a question, and it's a question that is apparently so simple that you're going to think you can answer it right away. And if you answer it right away, I've got to tell you, you're probably answering it wrong. But we're going to make it easy for you, because we're going to give you the 3 possible answers to the question. And there's really no better or worse answer. It just depends what you want. And the question is simply, how good do you want your customer experience to be? And let's give you a few choices. You can have minimal. Now, minimal, there's some advantages to having a minimal customer experience. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it. You don't have to innovate around it. You don't really have to do anything at all about it, except what's minimally legally and professionally required, to take money and give something in exchange. That will totally work for you if you have an absolute sustainable lock on a high demand product. You can just take orders all day, all long, all night, world without end, amen. I don't know any company that is reckless enough to believe that that's the case. So you're probably not going to get away with minimal. Here's another choice, parity. You could bench yourself to your best competitor. And there's some upsides to that. You also don't have to innovate a lot. You just have to see what the other guy does and make sure that they can't totally beat you in the marketplace. So wait for them and do what they do. And that's good, because it's not like your customer can go anyplace else to get anything better if you're benched at parity. The problem with that is just because your customer can't go someplace else doesn't mean they wouldn't if they could. And the first company that gets that and really raises the bar gets the credibility for why they're doing it. At that point, the company that does it first says, we're doing it because we want to do it. We think it's the right thing to do. We're doing it for you. If every company scrambles to copy them and the market tightens up, your customer culture is going to believe, understandably, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it because you need to do it. And they will take all the features of your customer experience and commoditize them and drive you right back into margin shredding battles. There's a third option. The third option is brandable. And the advantage of brandable is when you get branded, the reason any company should want to be branded is when you're a brand, you transfer sustainability of your company to your customer. That's what a brand does. That's what that remarkable achievement. And customers advertise and sell for you, and they step up to protect you if you stumble or get attacked. You have to be branded for something you can control, which is probably not what you sell, it's how you sell. And if you want to get to a brandable experience, the upside is you get brand credibility. You get everything that a brand gets. The downside is in order to become branded, you can't just ask for trust from your customer culture. You have to ask for faith, unfounded trust. Now, culture doesn't even like to extend trust because it can be vulnerable. To give unfounded trust is the rarest gift that culture can give. And you not only have to ask it from your customer culture, you have to ask it from your employee culture. Your employee culture's got to represent it, and your employee culture's got to buy it. And if you ask for faith from those two groups and default on that faith, hell hath no fury like a culture scorned. You will have done the worst possible damage to your business. So I would say, John, and my long-winded way to answer your original question is, why is the customer experience inconsistent? Is because the motivation probably is not there. The decision is really not there about what kind of customer experience the company wants, minimal, parity, or brandable. It may be trying to get away with as little as possible, which means there's really no heart there. And there's really no understanding of the culture there. It means you're just another company that believes that there's some sort of genetic limiter to the loyalty and commitment a culture can give you. And that's just not true. Cultures are responding the way they've been treated for generations and centuries in business. There's no limiter. A culture will give you whatever you want. You just have to give it what it wants first. And so I would say the inconsistency comes from a lack of faith from the company in terms of, if we put these resources in, what can it get us? And a lack of sophistication and commitment in how you deliver the experience.
No, that was awesome. That's brilliant. And when I'm thinking of your minimum stage, stage 1 or A, I'm thinking of the airlines and the Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
Yes, two great. The great thing that they have done for business is buried the bar so low that archaeologists generations from now will wonder, so is this a dinosaur femur? Or, yeah, it's unbelievable. The airlines especially are just baffling. What the airlines have that a lot of businesses would just give anything for is they have capture opportunity. They actually have you for a period of time. You can get off the plane. There you are, and yet it's about as anti-service and experience. It's just, I mean, if they were hell-bent on saying gee, this ought to be interesting. What if we just piss you off? What would happen then? It's unbelievable. And apparently, the interesting thing about an airline, from a customer experience standpoint, is apparently anything that's happened to make the experience go wrong, they've never seen before. It's their first time. How could they be expected to be prepared to deal with it, right? You've never seen this, you know? Yeah, the airlines and the DMV. If you put wings on the DMV, they'd be United Airlines.
Yes. What and so now you're three. You're the best. Branded, right? That was what you called it.
Yeah.
Can you give me some examples of some cultures, companies that live there?
In the brand side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to go to the off-eulogize, but we can talk about those. I just did, for my second book, I've known these guys for a while. I just did an interview with Craig and Jim at Costco. Jim Senegal was the co-founder and CEO, and Craig, who's their current CEO. And this is a company that absolutely gets us. Then one of the first questions I asked Costco is, what's the chicken and the egg order for you? Did you create the customer experience that you have because it was the right thing to do, just intuitively? Or did you create it because it was a very smart market competitive thing to do, and you found out that there's really a cause and effect here between treating customers right and your market share? And they said, we actually did it. We'd love to say that we just said, it was this deep spiritual practice. We did it because when we started, we were aware, we're still a warehouse concept, and it was bare floors, and it was crates and stacks, and we were afraid that people would think that, first of all, we're ripping off our employees, like we're just as cheap with our employees, and they're going to react badly to that, and that they would think that that we had just commoditized the experience completely. So what has become this beautiful, organic, deep belief in that company has very practical, tactical business reasons. But I would say there's a company that does it well. And the interesting thing about Costco, if we're using them as an example, I've lost track of the people that have said to me, Costco treats their employees very well. Really? Are you in it? No, I'm not an employee. Do you have family or friends? No, I don't really know anybody who's in it. How do you know? Did they talk about it? No, they never talk about it. They actually never advertise at all, except for their own circulars. Then how do you know they treat their people well? And why does that mean something to you? And it's what we were talking about earlier. You know, just because you know that you are dealing with employees there that are representing the company with legitimate enthusiasm. You know that you'd never represent your company with legitimate enthusiasm unless you were being treated with a certain type of deep and rare respect. And we always tell companies, you're well on your way to becoming a brand. If your customer doesn't just want to buy from you, they want to work for you. Even if that's impractical, they want to support a company who treats people like them the way they want to be treated. So I'd say Costco is, just as a common example, Costco is a great example. They get it right in a million different ways, small and big, constant vigilance, high intention, because that's what a brand is. A brand says you will know us by our intention. Very high intention in that company about doing business a certain way.
I love that. I love that. And one of the great examples I use, people, you hear it all the time that, the younger generation are me, or they don't get it. But I'll say, look at the the strongest cultures, the ones that sacrifice the most, and we've all been there in different times. And I have found that anyone that has to do with, political campaigns, contributing your time to them, charity, right, building a house for the weekend or raising funds, high school or maybe college athletes, right, or activities. What those three groups have, they're young a lot of times. B, they make no money doing what they're doing. C, they work tirelessly and give an absorbent amount of time for a cause. They see the impact that they have it. They're part of a bigger culture. They're part of a special fraternity, something they're willing to sacrifice for, fight for, and they never can probably make money in that endeavor. They're not going to go and become, house builders as a result of building a house for the weekend, or they're playing soccer in high school. One of my sons wrestles, and he's practicing 12 months a year and getting up at 6 a.m., injury and all this stuff. But I can't get him to take out the rubbish cans on Thursday nights, But, so what is it, And I always say if you create a company because they're part of something bigger and they see their direct impact, now let's do one thing that those groups can't do, and let's pay them, right? Market value, but pay them. And man, now you got Zappos, now you got Costco, now you got Southwest Airlines, now you got Disney.
John, anybody who works has got to constantly answer two questions. To people you don't know that well, it's what do you do? And to people you know very well, it's what did you do today? And if those two answers don't continue to confirm the culture's positive sense of self, then you don't even touch the amount of energy a culture can really give you. But if a culture believes that by protecting the company, it can protect its affiliation with the company, and its affiliation with the company means something beyond revenue. It's not the money. An employee culture, it's not that an employee culture doesn't like money. An employee culture likes money. An employee culture will take the money, spend the money, come back and ask for more money. But what a culture really is concerned about is its survival and its emotional prosperity, not financial prosperity. What the culture wants to know is the meaning of the money. And it uses money to buy meaning. So any company should just skip the middleman, give them the meaning. And if that meaning is present in the company, then there's a really good chance that you will get that kind of commitment. But if your only passion in the company is to make money, while your customer isn't concerned with you, or infatuated with your revenue concerns, that's not going to move your customer. And your employee culture isn't that infatuated either. Even if some of that revenue goes to the culture, the culture has got higher order, deeper issues. And money becomes a commodity. There has to be a legitimate passion to driving the business. This is what's right with the world that must be protected. This is what's wrong with the world that must be corrected. Now, I'm not saying that's a soft thing. It's about as hardcore results as you can get. But I'm saying there has to be a heart beating there somewhere. There has to be. And this is when we get to larger companies, this is very often what we find is missing. Either it didn't start, the company just didn't start from there in the beginning, or that's just been flatlined and held in disregard by the team who's come in that inherited the original passion and thinks their job is to tame that passion and scale the business. And the heart is gone. Now when I talk about heart, when I talk about emotion, the opposite of emotion is not rational. The opposite of emotional is not rational, rather. The opposite of emotional is detached. Emotion in the human brain is a very rational process. It's capable of producing wonderfully irrational responses, though, like love. People protect what they love. They talk about what they love. And if you can't get your employees to love your company because of not just what it does, or even how it does it, but why it does it, you're going to be living in a world without love.
I agree. I believe all these world-class companies have a purpose that's so strong. Whether you're the housekeeper, the janitor, you're attached to it. You see the part you play in it. You feel like you're. I mean, look at yours. Your company's intent on making a profound difference in the world. That's not something that you just thought up that would look sexy and you teach every member of the slab company the part that they play in that, and you're doing an amazing job. Your work is in over 70 countries around the world. That's pretty impressive.
John, let me just I give you a wrap that, this is not about me, this is about your audience, but since you brought it up, yeah, you're right. There's a reason I do what I do. What I do is, what my company does is to achieve maximum commitment in manager, employee, and customer cultures. That's what we do. The reason we do it is, And where this company started, my company started, just as an example, we started as a philosophy, a passion, before we were ever a value proposition. And it comes from my feeling that just about the worst thing that one human being can do to another human being, short of actually killing somebody, is to make someone feel small. To say you're not, you can't, you won't ever. It drives me insane. Any form of bias, social bias, abuse of authority, it just drives me nuts. And so the original passion for our company was, since the world works, I mean, everybody works or is affected by the people who work, is that nobody should be diminished by business, working in it or buying from it. Because if that happens to you in business, it doesn't stay in business. It jumps the fence. It follows you home. The same people made you feel small as employees or customers, those same people are not just employees and customers. Those same people are partners and parents and neighbors and voters and citizens. The toxic impact is incalculable of that kind of thing. And so it was a beautiful sentiment that was of no interest whatsoever to a profitable enterprise. That's beautiful. Next. So I had to turn it into this ROI equation that is. That's what got me to cultures. Because cultures are where the humans gather in business. And if we can reposition these three cultures, manager, employee, and customer, as newly precious workable assets, show you how to get more than you thought you could get out of them, then the enterprise is going to take care of them because they're an asset. You can't take care of these cultures without respecting the humanity that they represent. And so we're in business to make the business case for humanity. And that's because if we lose humanity in business, John, we're all doomed. And if we save it, manager by manager, company by company, we've saved ourselves. So I would say to any manager at any level in the company, you want to build a company, you want to make money, you want to sell products, those are very good things. You want a legacy impact on the world and the people who depend on your people, that's a great thing. Now, you don't have to give up the very good things to get the great thing. You just have to want to get the great thing.
I love it. The synergy here and the way we think. The DiJulius Group's purpose is to change the world by creating a customer service revolution. And you know, we have definitions for everything. And the definition for a customer service revolution is almost exactly what you stated. It's a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform, to change what employees and customers experience. And this shift produces a culture that permeates into people's personal lives, at home, and in the community, which in turn provides the business with higher sales, morale, brand loyalty, and thus making price irrelevant. So, I mean, we're along the exact same lines. Those aren't just words we throw up there. Those are words that, you know, we really feel. I mean, you're you know, having a profound difference in the world, and that is why you are so highly recommended. And we want we're having you be one of the headliners at the Secret Service Summit, which is November 4th and 5th. And so tell people, because I have a really hungry audience between now and November, where can they go for more information? And you know, remind them if they can get the book at your site, they will buy it, and they will read up and prepare for the Stan Slap experience.
Well, yeah, the book is available wherever books are sold, which basically means Amazon these days. Wherever books are sold.
And it's Bury My Heart in Conference Room B, correct?
Bury My Heart in Conference Room B. It's a hell of a pithy read, if I do say so myself. I won't tell you how it ends, but everybody lives better. And that's a book. I have a 3-book deal with Penguin to write a book on how each of these cultures work and how to work them. The first book, this is a book for managers. This is a book about the ultimate fulfillment and how to translate that into business impact that's available to a manager. So there's that. Our website is slapcompany.com. And there's
that's with one P, right, Stan?
slapcompany.com. Yeah, and if I can answer any questions for you, my email is stan@slapcompany.com. Don't email me in the next 2 weeks. I'm trying to finish a book according to deadline. But after that, or don't expect an answer. You can email me. But after that, I'd be happy to respond.
That's awesome, Stan. I am so pumped. Our mutual friend from Hallmark Cards, Amy Mendenhall, said because she's been to our Secret Service Summit every year, and she said you have to have Stan. He is the perfect person for this type of audience, and she couldn't be more right. I owe Amy, I owe you. I am so thrilled to have both your brilliance and your energy. My audience at the Secret Service Summit is just going to benefit and walk away with so much having heard you. So I really want to thank you for being a part of the Secret Service Summit this year.
John, it's an honor, and hey, Amy, and it really is. I'm looking forward to talking to the audience. If they didn't already have tremendous depth as people and as professionals, they wouldn't have even made it to this event. So let's turn that loose.
All right, Stan. We'll see you in a few months. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.